Hello everyone, welcome to Recursive Gaming and my video on the best free-to-play account progression strategies. First, let me show you something interesting to get this video started. This game is arguably free-to-play friendly because of this system I'm going to show you right now. If you go to the Soulstone Quarry and you get some soulstones, and then you go to this shop, the general shop, down into the soulstone section, you can purchase soulstone shards of the heroes that you already have copies of. However, if you look at the numbers, for these legendary plus heroes, you can only buy one soulstone per day. This means that it would take almost a month of buying a soulstone copy every single day to get a legendary plus Shane from level 30 to level 38. Now that doesn't sound quite so free-to-play friendly, does it? I mean, well, it is technically, if you have a lot of patience and are willing to stick with the game for a long, long time. And that brings us to the topic of this video. As a beginning free-to-play player, who do you spend your resources on first to make progress as fast as possible, to make this grind as fast and as efficient as possible? Well, if you just keep watching, I'll explain everything. Let's get started. First, let me just start off by quickly giving you the recommended starting team. Continue watching this video to see the breakdown of all the information and the optional other heroes to use if you don't want to use this team. But first, here's the team. In the tank spot, Magical Engineer Gillahan is your first tank. And your first DPS to raise, Sadist Henry. And the second DPS hero for you to raise, either Elena's Sword Lyn or Shadow Sword Shane. And lastly, a healer such as Elena's Sword Henry, Adventurer Shay, Nestra's Disciple Melissa, or everyone's favorite once you get her for free on day 7, Saint of Light Karen. Keep in mind that once you unlock Rachel, she becomes your main DPS and you should spend all of your soulstones leveling her up. She is insane as a main damage carry in PvE and is currently your best choice. And then as we jump into the full breakdown in this video, 2 quick disclaimers. The first disclaimer is that this is primarily focused on PvE progression. PvP progression requires its own set of special heroes. The heroes you'll be leveling for PvE can also be used in PvP, but around 3500 arena rating, you're going to hit a massive wall, where the whales in the game who have the legendary plus heroes will destroy your PvE team. For this video, I'm focusing on PvE free-to-play progression. Arena stuff is going to be in other videos. Second disclaimer, the heroes I'm going to be recommending are not legendary versions. I'll be focusing on rare and greater, or blue and green grade heroes for the free-to-play player who hasn't had much luck pulling multiple copies of legendaries. That being said, if you pull an extremely meta legendary hero you think is better than the free-to-play options I'm recommending, by all means throw them in and use them. Just keep in mind that if they are stuck at level 30, they may not be as effective as they sound compared to your level 50 Transcend level 10 hero. So, the format that I wanted to present this video is in telling you some of the assumptions that I initially made for my account and later discovered that I was wrong. Let's start off by talking about tanks. My first assumption. I assumed that only tank types can be main tanks. This is wrong. In certain game modes, you only need to kite the bosses around and avoid getting hit by the skills that they use in order to be successful. And in fact, this allows you to bring a character that can buff the entire team's damage or do significant damage themselves. It's helpful to sometimes bring a high damage tank instead of bringing a traditional tank. For instance, Adele is a tank type, but he has no self-shield and no self-heal, meaning that he sucks as a main tank. You need to level him up anyways for the 4th raid boss, but I would not recommend trying to use him as your main tank in completing story mode or difficult content such as raids, with the exception of that 4th raid boss. The only time he'll be your main tank is in that battle for this resistance ability, and that's it. So, for your first tank, I recommend building Magical Engineer Gillahan, because it's very easy to max his Transcendence level because he's a green hero, because you need to max him anyways for his resistance against the first raid boss, and because, as already mentioned, he has a nice self-heal. In the second spot, I recommend raising Tristan, who is also very easy to get to max Transcendence level. However, he is not recommended in raids due to not bringing utilities such as a resistance or suppressor ability. His main selling point is being very resilient and having a good self-heal. That being said, he can be a fantastic tank for progressing in story mode, or auto-farming story mode overnight, or auto-farming in maps. Third, Recluse Rudy. Where is he? Here he is. This guy should be a priority for your progression due to his suppressor ability, which is absolutely necessary in the second raid boss. He has a decent full team HP shield and a taunt. However, he does not have a self-heal, so you will need a good healer if you use him as your main tank. Fourth, Demon Hunter Scott. He is easy to fully max level because he's a green hero. He has a self HP shield, a taunt, and his two other abilities heal him for a portion of the damage that they deal, so he has a little bit of self-healing. In the fifth spot, we have Elena's Sword Cade. Where is he? He has a nice self-heal, and he has an extremely rare Death Defiance full damage immunity ability as his passive. It's the same exact ability as the extremely broken meta legendary hero Spike, actually. So very nice. In the sixth spot, we have Roar of the Wild Iota, who has a great self-heal, and lastly, that completes the recommended free-to-play tanks portion. Let's move on to the high damage carries. My second assumption. I assumed that higher grades, such as legendary heroes, did a lot more damage than rare and greater heroes. This is not always correct. Sometimes a max transcendence green hero, such as Green Claire or Green Henry, can deal significant damage. Now, certain legendary heroes are meta, okay? And for this reason, even at base transcendence 0 level 30, deal more damage than a lot of other heroes. Some examples include Legendary Rachel, who I already showed you, Legendary Delens, Legendary plus Shane, Legendary plus Cosette, and the new Legendary Miss Velvet, who I also showed you earlier. Here we go. Keep in mind, however, that at level 30, they are going to be much more squishy, and will die much faster than your max level 50 green and blue heroes. Their damage output might be higher, but the trade-off is that you can't auto-farm with them as easily. You have to manually play to evade boss skill damage or they get one-shot because they're too low level. Sometimes the lower grade blue and green heroes that are max leveled still win out because it's better to finish the content slower, but with a 100% success rate, than it is to sometimes fail while using that higher damage but squishier hero. This is especially true for melee DPS heroes. However, ranged heroes like the Legendary plus Cosette are especially good and usually auto-farm friendly. So, there are 4 categories for DPS heroes: ranged and melee, then single target and area of effect. Ranged DPS is generally easier and safer for auto-farming than melee DPS. AoE is nice for farming groups of mobs quickly, but actually unnecessary for most of the difficult content in the game. The areas of the game that give you the best rewards require single target damage, not area damage, because they are fights against solo bosses. So, in order of most recommended to least recommended for a new free-to-play player to start with. Hold on. Let's go ahead and start. In the first spot, Phoenix Incarnate Rachel. Okay. Once you unlock her from, let's take a quick look. You can actually get her fairly early on. It doesn't take very long to get 300,000 account CP. Once you unlock her, she becomes your main DPS unit. You should be using all of your Soulstone Shard resources to buy her Soulstones every day in the shop and raising her. She will be your main DPS. Okay? She's in the first spot for a reason. She's absolutely phenomenal. Definitely focus on her. In the second spot, and before you get Rachel or even after you get Rachel, this guy's going to help, because of his resistance ability, and you're going to need to use him in the second raid boss anyways. Also, as an early player, he's easy to gear because he does poison damage that ignores defense on the target and does not rely on crit. Okay, so it's easy to give him effective gear sets early on in your playthrough. For instance, attack sets, or cooldown sets, or even skill level up sets. Okay. Also, he's a ranged hero, which makes him more reliable as an auto farmer, and he takes less damage from bosses on average because he's out of their range a lot of the time. Also, you need to max him, like I said, for that second raid boss anyways. In the third spot for DPS, I recommend Elena's Sword Lyn. I wish I had her so much. I've never been able to pull her. I used my initial selector ticket on somebody else. I think it was Elena's Sword Henry because I needed a healer really bad, and I used this healer for a long time until I unlocked Karen. Okay. I wish I had chosen this girl instead. The only way to get her is either from a rare plus selector ticket or by pulling her from the gacha. So if you get her, focus her and make her your first max leveled rare hero. She is necessary for the first raid boss because of her suppressor ability. Also, the rest of her kit is amazingly good. Okay, she will be useful for your account as a reliable damage booster for your entire team, while also doing good damage herself. Look at this. This ability boosts damage received by the boss. This increases damage received by the boss. This is a defense break. Oh, she's just so good. So her downsides or her drawbacks are that she's melee. She requires very high crit rate. Okay, so she has a high gear level requirement. Also, her equipment is not as accessible as Henry's, like I said, because you're restricted to crit rate. And she is not a free guaranteed hero. You either have to be extremely lucky or smart to get her. In the fourth spot, we have Unblemished Patrol Claire. You get her for free. The only reasons that she beats Shadow Sword Shane for the fourth spot is because she is easier to max level in Transcendence, and because her skill kit is more reliable damage because she does not need to be behind the target, and because she is ranged and therefore safer for auto farming. Also, she boosts the entire team's damage with and her own at the same time with a very nice crit rate buff. Lastly, she has a buff strip that is absolutely necessary for a PvE boss fight in story mode. In the fifth spot, we have Shadow Sword Shane. Where is she? She takes the fifth spot because you need to max her for the fourth raid boss anyways because of her suppression ability, and because she is useful in PvP as well as in PvE. She's useful in PvP because of this ability right here. However, in PvE, she faces a massive disadvantage because she is melee and therefore not auto farm friendly, and she does not have utility that helps the team, except for her suppressor ability and the raid boss. And lastly, it is difficult to reliably take advantage of her increased damage when attacking units from behind. You are evading bosses and their skills so much. She's just not attacking the boss from behind very often, so she actually ends up doing less damage than Unblemished Patrol Claire in PvE, believe it or not. In the sixth spot, Villainous Succubus Ming. This girl has a fantastic skill kit that does great damage without needing high crit rate. Very easy to gear her and see high damage results. But she lacks utility for helping the team, and she is melee but has no damage mitigation abilities, making her squishy and not auto farm friendly. In the seventh spot, we have Nestra's disciple Shang-Chen. This girl is a great DPS unit who has fantastic self buffs for crit rate and attack speed, just like Ming. But she lacks utility for helping the team. And she is melee, but has no damage mitigation abilities, making her squishy and not auto-farm friendly. Alright, third assumption. I assumed that just because a unit has the support type, they were good healers and would help my team survive. This is wrong. For instance, Pilgrim of Light Melissa, the first common healer you're given for free, is not a reliable healer who keeps your team alive. If anything, her heals only help mitigate being accidentally hit by boss abilities once or twice. Basically, she's there to help you get the hang of boss mechanics and evading dangerous boss abilities. Her heals will not keep you alive. They will just help you survive a few hits that you probably should have evaded but didn't. The same goes for Alchemist Ian. Hold on, where is he? There he is. The same goes for Alchemist Ian. And sorry, I'm reading a script. For reference, I wrote a full 7-page single-space script for this video. There's a lot of research and analysis that went into this. But sometimes I lose my spot in the script. Hold on. Yeah, the same goes for Alchemist Ian and Nestra's disciple Melissa. The only truly useful healers that can actually help keep your team alive through auto-farming bosses are In the first spot, of course, everyone's favorite, Saint of Light, Karen, but you don't get her for free until day 7. And even then, spending your resources on purchasing soul stones for Karen means not purchasing soul stones for Rachel, or a legendary plus hero that you may have been lucky enough to summon. Also, she actually doesn't have the best healing in the game. She just has the best resurrection ability in the game as her ultimate. So this can help you cheese some of the more difficult fights where losing your main tank is inevitable because the boss damage is just too high. In the second spot is actually the best healer in the game, Elena's Sword Henry. This guy is the best healer in the entire game based purely on the amount of healing that he can do. Actually, he does even more healing than Karen. Okay, in the third spot, Adventurer Shay. This girl is the best support when farming green maps against bosses, okay, but not as main healer. Her passive helps her generate more ultimate for herself while decreasing it for enemies, and her ultimate increases the entire party's ultimate gauge. This means she keeps your group's ultimates spamming much more often. This can not only provide more overall group DPS, but also more group stability, because she's not your main. If she's not your main healer, then she's increasing the ultimate gauge of your main healer, making your team much safer overall. So let's say you have her and Alchemist Ian, because you don't have the best healer, Elena's Sword Len, Elena's Sword Henry, and you also have Nestor's Disciple Melissa. Okay, so most of Melissa's healing comes from her ultimate, as well as Ian. Most of his healing also comes from his ultimate. So if you're using these as your main healers and you don't have a better option because you don't have Karen yet, consider pairing these two guys with Shay, because when she spams her ultimate, it increases their ultimate, which means their best heal is available more often, making them a much more viable healer. Okay, so there is ways to get around not having Elena's Sword Henry and not having Karen. All right, you can make other healers work if you find a way to boost their ultimate gauge as much as possible. In the fifth spot, we skipped Ian. Alchemist Ian is in the fourth spot. I kind of already talked about his best healing is from his ultimate, and in order to get right now he's using my skill level up gear, so this is level 15. That's to boost his poison resistance. Okay, we'll talk more about that in a minute, about gearing and skill level up gear, why it's so important. So you'll be building him for this purpose anyways, so he's going to be max level 50 for you. So if you are struggling for a healer, then he can do the job of healing if you find a way to get his ultimate available as much as possible. And that's by putting him in an attack speed spot in a formation, okay? Or using Shay to boost his ultimate, stuff like that. You can also pair him with another healer, right? So you've got more than just his heals to rely on. But yeah, you can use him, and you're going to have him maxed anyways. In the fifth spot, you have Heavenly Voice Serena. She can actually help boost Ian, because his other two abilities is a buff and a debuff. He'll use these when they're off cooldown, right? And this girl's ultimate reduces the skill cooldown of all allies, which helps you get your ultimates up more quickly, because auto-attacking very quickly generates ultimate, but also using skills more often generates ultimate quickly. So this will help you get your ultimates up faster. So in a way, she can off-heal using this skill right here. She also does good AoE damage, okay, and buffs your team's AoE skill damage. And whenever she reduces skill cooldowns of all allies, she in turn increases this ultimate gauge. So you can find some synergy to make Ian work as a good healer. But he will never be as good, unfortunately, as this guy or her. All right. Next, my fourth assumption. I assumed that you should level up everyone on your account equally and equip them all with the best gear you can get, so your overall account of combat power goes up as fast as possible, so you can finish the account CP quest as fast as possible. This is not all necessarily true. Okay, so I recommend focusing on account combat power up until you get Rachel. You want to unlock her as fast as possible and then start raising her by getting soul stones for her in the shop every day. And then these do help, okay? But legendary gear is not impossible to get. At some point you're going to be able to farm legendary gear, so these rewards will not seem as useful. So what I did in sharing my blue gear across every character was not best for my account. If I had followed what I'm about to tell you, I would have made much faster progress on my account. Okay. So what I said in my previous video about completing this quest as fast as possible is not completely wrong. I'm going to tell you how parts of what I said was correct and that it's useful for unlocking Rachel as fast as possible. Okay, let's go back to the heroes. Now I know exactly what gear types I should have focused on, what order, and what progress to make progress as efficiently without wasting materials or time. So let's start by talking about equipment progression. First, you do want to equip all your heroes with green gear, okay, that you're not using anywhere else, and it's just throwaway green gear. You do want to do that because it raises their account CP for free. You were just going to salvage it anyways. However, do not transcend your green gear. Look at this transcended green gear. This is a massive mistake, guys. Don't make my mistake. Do not transcend green gear. It's a terrible waste of resources. Oh my gosh. It's so bad. I have huge resource problems. I can't get enough gold to progress my account. As soon as I get gold, I spend it. Potential is very expensive. Divinity is very expensive. There's so many different things that require your gold. Do not waste your gold. Trust me, you're going to wish you had it. I also bought stuff in the shop for gold. I went here. I went here. Not here. I bought these legendary enhancement stones for gold. Right? Don't do that. Okay, your gold is so precious. It looks like I have some now, but watch. Hold on. I'll show you how fast it disappears. Okay, let's raise. I can't raise her potential. I'm waiting for 850. No. This one, so I can raise her HP. 250,000, guys, just to get 500 HP on her. Boom. Now it's gone. Boom. Now it's gone. Look at that. All that gold gone. And I gave myself 1,000 HP. I mean, it helps. Yeah. Look at her CP's up to 20,000 now. But look how fast that disappeared. And I've got to raise potential on all my main heroes that I use. I've got to raise Divinity. Let's take a look at Divinity. Let's see how expensive it is to raise this. If I want to raise my attack, 80,000. Right? This stuff isn't cheap, guys. And then if I want to enhance my equipment, let's say I wanted to raise this 27,000. May not seem like much, but when you fail a bunch of times, it adds up quick. Let's go over here. Let's see how much it costs to raise this to 20 once I have a special enhancement stone. I'm not going to use this because it's 5% success rate. But once I get a special enhancement stone, I'll use it. 350,000 for one attempt. And it's going to have like a 30% success rate. Come on, guys. So gold is so valuable. I wish I had not wasted it transcending green gear. That's a terrible idea. Don't do it. So you do, however, want to equip them with green gear to raise your account CP as fast as possible to unlock Rachel and the other rewards. So that is good advice. However, don't transcend it. And just make it easier for yourself and keep those throwaway green equipment sets as full sets of 5, not as mix and matched different sets. As you can see, I have a mixed set. Why? And a random blue on her. Why? So terrible. Don't do this, guys. Okay? Just keep it all the same. Like, switching this stuff around every time I get a gear upgrade is a huge nightmare. I wish I had just made all of their gear sets as sets of 5, so it would be so much easier to move gear around and keep track of things, and I wouldn't have to finagle with it so much. And it's so frustrating. Okay, so don't do mixed sets. If you're just putting green gear on somebody to raise their account CP, do full sets of 5. Okay, much easier to keep track of, much easier to manage. And it's only throwaway green gear after all. Okay, second, go in where you can create, name, and save specific equipment sets by clicking on this button. Let's go back. Okay, this button is very important as well. This is how you exchange gear. So if I wanted to level this guy up, okay, and I don't want to use experience potions. In fact, I'd rather just let him auto farm overnight and get free experience, but I wanted him to actually help and do damage. I will put my best DPS set on him, right? So I will go up here to my main DPS and I will switch their gear sets. This is because I don't want to lose track of this, right? So when I'm done leveling up and I come back in the morning, I just switch it back. Okay, so this button is very useful, this exchange equipment. Very useful, you'll use it a lot, okay, to keep track of your gear. However, this button I wish I had known about a long time ago. It's very helpful for what we're about to talk about. Okay. create a main tank set, create a main DPS set, okay, create a second DPS set, a health set, a cooldown set, and a skill level up set. And you're going to need different skill level up sets. So this is skill level tank. I also need to create a skill level healer and a skill level DPS. This is because the skill level gear stays the same, but the accessories change depending on who you're using. And we're going to continue talking about that. This is, we're coming up on the most important, biggest tip in this entire video that's going to make a massive difference for your account. I promise you, if you use this tip, you will progress much faster. Okay. But first, let's talk about some other things. Main DPS, I recommend building your main DPS set first. And the reason why is because your main DPS may have a specific gear requirement. Let's say you managed to get Elena's Sword Lyn. I showed you her before. The rare version of Lyn, who I love and I wish I had, has a very specific gear requirement because of this right here. This is what makes her so valuable. Okay. She needs a full crit set of gear. She needs as much crit chance as possible to take advantage of her skill kit. Okay, so you can't just throw skill cooldown on her and expect to get the same results. If you put crit chance on her, she will be much more effective for your team. So certain heroes have specific gear requirements. So that's why I recommend, as a new player, building your skill set, or not skill set, sorry, building your main DPS set first, because they might have a specific equipment requirement. Then I recommend building a main tank set. Okay. Then I recommend building a support set. Right now, my support set is cooldown. Unfortunately, I need to change this. My healer is too squishy, guys. I've been trying to come up with a team that can auto farm green map bosses without me needing to evade skills at all. They can just tank the boss hits and then just farm overnight, okay, and do all my green maps, because I have over 700 green maps that I need to use. And the bosses, like, it's just so frustrating to sit there for hours on end and then dodge every boss skill, right? I mean, if I could just come up with a team that can tank the boss hits and then farm overnight, it would be so helpful for my account. So that's what I'm working on now. So this skill cooldown set did not work for me. My Karen was too squishy. She was getting too hit by the boss. She would get one boss hit, she'd heal, she'd be fine. She'd get another boss hit, or maybe the boss's ultimate, and she'd die, and then she doesn't have her res, and the team just falls apart. Okay, so what I need is to make her tankier. So what I recommend is, after you build your main DPS set and your main tank set, I recommend building a health set. Okay, let's look at my second tank set. Right, so I wish that I had focused on a health set and fully transcended and enhanced a health set for my healer, along with some healing accessories. Like here's some healing accessories, right? Skill cooldown on heal, right? And so I would use these accessories with a health set, and I think that I would have seen more success for my account a lot earlier on. I'd have been farming legendary gear much faster, blah blah blah. Okay, so a lot of people like cooldown on their healers for good reason. However, early on, before your healer is leveled up high enough, before your gear is legendary and you've got it transcended and enhanced, before that, you're not tanky enough. So I recommend building health for your healer to start with as a new player. Okay, as a free-to-play player. And I think that will help you a lot. So build a health set. Next, build your skill level up set. This is very important. Look at the skill level up set. You're going to want 3 sets. You're going to want skill level up tank, which is basically just skill level up plus different accessories. You're going to want skill level up healer, and you're going to want skill level up DPS. Okay? And the reason why is this. Hold on. Let's take a look at somebody who knows what we're talking about. Resistance heroes. Okay? This guy. He needs skill level up tank. He's going to be tanking. And the reason you want his skill level up as much as possible is for his resistance ability. If you raise his resistance ability, he becomes much more useful. This is the whole reason you're taking him, guys. Otherwise, you would just take a better tank. Or you would take a better tank, right? Why wouldn't you take Evan as main tank? He's much better. Put your best gear on him and use Evan. Why would you use Gillahan? He sucks as compared to Evan anyways. It's because you need these resistance abilities. So you're going to end up having to take him anyways. And this is the whole reason you're taking him, so boost this skill, right? Take advantage of the only reason he's there. All right, so that's what we were talking about. Skill level up. You want a full set of skill level up gear that you can switch around depending on what raid you're doing. So for resistance heroes, he's a tank. Ian is arguably a healer, so you could take him as either a tank, right, to boost his CP and make him tankier so you can take more hits, or you can give him healer accessories, right? So you can use skill level up gear, but healer accessories, because he technically has some healing. Not much, but he has some. But I actually might recommend just keeping him on tank set of accessories. Let's see, where is another? This guy. However, this guy needs to do some damage. This guy's a damage dealer. I already talked about him being a damage dealer that you would raise anyways. When you take him into the second raid boss for his paralysis resistance, you're going to have him on skill level up gear. And then I recommend taking your DPS accessories along. So you're going to need skill level tank, skill level healer, and skill level DPS. Alright, so that's that. Let's talk about my fifth assumption. I assumed that I should spread my blue equipment out all over my heroes at first, because replacing their green gear with new blue gear increased the overall account CP much more than just transcending a single gear set. Okay, so let's see what that looks like. Let's go find some skill level up gear. Where do I have it on? I think Ian has it on. Okay. I can't transcend any of this gear. This gear is all fully transcended. So let's find a different person with skill level up gear on. Who has it? Come on. I know somebody has some on. Here we go. Let's transcend this. Let's see how much the account CP goes up. $70. I gained 70 combat power from enhancing it. That's it. Or transcending it, I mean. Just 70. Now, for comparison, watch this. I'm replacing... By the way, don't transcend green gear. We already talked about this. Don't transcend green gear. Don't do it. So, ignore that 5. Anyways, watch how much difference there's going to be from just replacing a green gear with a piece of blue gear. 165. More than double the combat power increase from replacing green gear than with transcending gear. However, this is the big point. Don't spread your blue gear all over your account when you're starting, okay? That's okay once you've got your main gear sets. So let's say you're starting out, you have no legendary gear, all you have is green and blue gear. Fully transcend and enhance your gear sets that you're building for your core team before you spread your blue gear out all over your account, okay? Don't spread your blue gear out all over your heroes like I have. You're going to find random blue pieces everywhere, okay? Don't do this, guys. Don't spread your blue gear until you have finished fully transcending and enhancing your main set for your core team. All right? Because once you have your main sets built here, you only need 4. Once you've got your main 4 sets built here, then you can start spreading your blues all over your account and increasing your account CP that way. Until then, build your 4 sets, guys. Use them for transcending. It may not increase your CP as much, but it's going to help your progression much better. You're going to be able to progress much faster. You're going to be able to do more harder difficulties faster because your core team will be better. Okay. If I had used this trick, I would have progressed much faster in my account. All right. Hold on. Let me find my spot in my script here. I wrote a full 7-page script for this video, guys, by the way. Single spaced. A lot of information, a lot of analysis, just so you know how much work goes into these videos. All right. Skill level up gear. Here we finally come to the biggest tip of the entire video. This will help your account progression more than anything else, I promise you. Okay? Skill level up gear. Highly underrated and highly necessary for certain roles. Like I talked about, you need skill level up gear, a full set, for your resistance heroes. Let's go show you what I'm talking about with a raid. Daily Dungeon Party. Okay? This is where you don't take your own heroes as a team. You go in with one of your heroes to support other players, and you do it as group content, okay? Every couple of days, this dungeon additional reward is going to pop up, and you're going to have 2 chances to get a lot of additional rewards, okay? I already did it for today. See, I just completed difficulty power level 17,000. That's bad. I should be doing tier 3. I should be getting these legendary pieces of gear, guys, okay? The problem is let's say I took my favorite hero. I have a favorite hero. Let's take my favorite hero. Boom, she has my best attack set on. This is my favorite. Let's go look at this. She's still below the recommended CP for tier 3 guys. Okay, she's only level 38. This is my best gear set. I honestly can't bring a stronger hero. I can't. But I'm still not technically strong enough to be doing this. Other people that you're going to be grouping with in tier 3 are going to have much stronger Rachels than you. Okay, they're going to have a level 40, level 46, level 42, whatever, with better legendary gear. Their Rachel's going to have closer to 27,000 CP. Okay, and they're going to do more damage than you. So don't bring your Rachel if she's not up to snuff, right? If she's not up to par. How you get into tier 3 raids early, so you can start getting this gear faster, is by playing the heroes that are absolutely necessary to complete the raid, but no one else wants to play. So they let you join even though you're under CP because they need you there, but they don't want to play that character, so they let you play that character instead. Okay, so let somebody else bring their Rachel with higher CP than you. Start doing tier 3 early by using this trick. In this dungeon, you need a paralysis hero, and that's Henry. So let's put Henry in here. Okay, I need him to be level 50, by the way. So I'm currently trying to level him up. And let's put my skill level up gear on him. It is on my Ian. Boom. Okay, I would put DPS accessories on him. But, and also he would be max level 50. So what I would do is I would bring Henry in here. He would have about 19,000, maybe close to 20,000 CP. He would still be way under. But because he's necessary to complete this dungeon with his resistance ability, and he helps a lot, and people want him there, it doesn't matter if you're under CP. He's a green hero, and he's not top tier DPS. They're not going to expect you to carry the raid, guys. They only want you there for one reason. That is for your resistance ability. And that's why I recommend putting and building and prioritizing a full set of skill level up gear. It's super important. If you can max level and get a really nice level of skill level up gear, you can do the same thing in other days. Okay, so you can build the resistance hero that's necessary for all of these. Adele needs to be here. Okay, Adele the tank. Nobody likes to play Adele. He sucks. Right? He's not a great unit. He only has his resistance, his frost resistance ability. So build main tank Adele. Get a full set of skill level up gear so he helps the team resist the frost on the boss. Use him here. For this one, it's Alchemist Ian is a resistance ability guy. For this one, it's Henry. For this one, it's Gillahan. So let's do the same thing. Here's Gillahan. Let's go ahead and put my gear on him. Exchange equipment. Let's go to my Henry. Boom. Okay, so this is who I would take. I want to complete tier 3. So the next time the dungeon comes around where you're getting, next week, I'm going to do this. I'm going to take somebody who's 7,500 CP under recommended CP. And they're going to let me do it, and I'll be able to join the group and complete the dungeon and start farming legendary gear. And I should have been doing this weeks ago. Okay? But they're going to let me do it because they need Magical Engineer Gillahan in this raid. He's got the burn resistance that you need. You have to have him, guys. If you don't take Gillahan into this raid boss, it becomes 3 times harder. Alright? So they're going to let you join, and nobody wants to play him, by the way, because he's not fun to play as. But you can take him, you can dodge the enemy boss skill animations. Once you learn the fight, you won't get hit that often. Your goal is to stay alive, dodge the boss skills, and just bring your burn resistance to the party. That's all you're there for. And so that's why building skill level up gear is so important. You want to bring those resistance heroes with the skill level up gear. And that honestly is the biggest tip I can give you. That's going to help you so much. As soon as you can start farming tier 3, you're going to be getting legendary gear much faster than I did. Your account's going to go further much faster than mine has. So that's why that's so important. All right, let me find my spot in the script here because that was honestly the most important part of the video, and I wanted to prioritize that as much as possible. All right. When you're making your first sets of gear, okay, and you don't have legendary gear, all you have is green and blue gear, don't feel bad about transcending and enhancing blue gear, okay? Let's compare this. I'm leveling up Scott, by the way, which is why he has my second DPS set. This is not my main DPS set, it's my second one. This is fully transcended, not fully enhanced, because I actually don't recommend taking it beyond 10. The enhancement success rate becomes so low that you waste a lot of gold. and I'm just not sure it's worth it at that point. You don't actually get that much attack. You only get 33 attack. It maybe plus 15 on your DPS weapon might be worth it, but plus 10 is actually probably the recommended max. So yeah, you might want to stop at plus 10. On your weapon for your DPS, maybe consider going up to plus 15, but let's just see how often I succeed. Oh, there's a success. That's a failure. And I'm out of gold already. Look at that. So, yeah. Let's compare that with the main DPS weapon. So this is at 471 attack, right? And this is actually, it's easier just to do it like this. Okay, main DPS. Here we go. 1500 attack for a plus 19 non-transcended legendary weapon. Plus 1500 attack. That's awesome. This improves DPS by quite a bit. But it took a lot of gold and a lot of legendary enhancement stones to get this thing to plus 19. If it was at plus 10, to compare it, it would have roughly twice as much attack. Okay, so here's how it works. The legendary weapon has roughly twice as much stats as the blue weapon. So if they are both not transcended, both base level enhancement, then they're going to have the blue's going to have roughly half the stats. However, you built this equipment set, right? It's blue. This is your best set. You've got a plus 11 fully transcended crit weapon. The attack is 471. That's going to be about half as much as your legendary weapon. But look at these stats here, the substats. 122 crit rate, 186 crit damage. Roughly double. Okay? Almost exactly double. So your crit rate and crit damage on this blue weapon is, you have double the stats as you do on this legendary weapon. So by fully transcending this blue gear, you're actually giving yourself really important stats, and it helps progress your account much better than waiting until you get legendary gear to spend all your resources. So don't wait. I recommend getting your blue gear, fully transcending it, and then getting it to plus 10 and having that as your full set, and then gradually replacing with legendary gear and enhancing it and whatnot. Okay, but don't think that by transcending and enhancing your blue gear that you're wasting resources, because you're not. It's absolutely necessary to get a good start and to progress through the story and get the higher difficulties completed in dungeons and raids. So don't feel bad about enhancing and transcending blue gear. It's not a waste, especially because you're only doing it to one set, or 4 sets total, but you get the idea. And then gradually replace it with legendary gear as you get it. If I had done this, like for instance, this gear should all be at least plus 10. It's fully transcended, sure, but should all be plus 10. If this was all plus 10 and maybe the weapon is plus 15, then I would have probably 1,000 more CP, or maybe 500 or 800 more CP in what I just showed you, where I tried to take Gillahan into that raid. And it's going to help a lot. I mean, it seemed like much, but it looks a lot better when you're trying to join a team and you're under CP in tier 3. So, long story short, don't feel bad about transcending and enhancing your first set of blue gear. It's really going to help your account. And I showed you the comparison between, fully transcended substats versus not transcended substats. You're roughly getting twice as much substats on a blue that's fully transcended as you are on a legendary that's not. So, just for comparison. Don't feel bad about investing in your characters. Blue sets of equipment is going to help your account. And that actually concludes this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe for more content like this. The next project I'm going to be working on is a video showing a free-to-play beginner-friendly team using no legendary heroes that can farm normal difficulty green map bosses completely on auto. So stay tuned for that. Go ahead and subscribe, and you'll be notified when it comes up. Thank you everyone for watching. I'll see you in the next one.